everybody, Adam Sadler here from Blacklist Games.
And I'm Brady Sadler, and we are the VPs of Product Development.
And we're here to talk to you about Lasting Tales, one of the new projects coming up from Blacklist Games. Lasting Tales is a cooperative tabletop miniatures game for 1 to 5 players.
It's kind of a miniatures agnostic, solo, cooperative, story-driven skirmish game.
Yes, and so we hired Mark Latham, who is known for his previous miniatures games such as Elder Scrolls, Call to Arms,
The Walking Dead, called All Out War.
And he is designing Lasting Tales for us. And we worked with him to work out a vision of pretty much the game we've always wanted. This is like Brady said, a cooperative tabletop miniatures game. It's got role-playing elements, but it's played purely cooperative. You play as a hero, going on adventures, playing through a campaign, countless types of monsters to fight, different kinds of adventures to go through. And not only do you play through adventures on the tabletop, on a skirmish style game, but there's also things that you can encounter in between sessions. Like when you go to town, you can have events pop up. Anybody who played old games like Warhammer Quest will be familiar with that style of game.
Yeah, there's a lot of adventure game influence because outside of just the typical combat, there's also certain encounters you might have where you're just doing non-combat encounters where you're just socially interacting with people, you're trying to solve a mystery. There's a lot of things you can do within this it's a little more simplistic of a rule set, but has a lot of complexity with the depth you can get into with the story design and the scenario design and everything. And there's also rules for followers, so you can have companions you can hire to help you out. So there are ways to play. If you just want to have your one hero, there'll be options for players who can just fill out the rest of the ranks with followers. Because while you could go into an adventure with just your one character, you kind of lose a little something with the tactical nature of the board if you're just moving your one character around. And there's also some command abilities that are really cool to play off of with other characters on the board, whether they're player controlled or just followers. So you kind of want to have a party with you.
And that's another thing that comes in scenarios too. There might be scenarios where you have to rescue somebody or guide somebody off of the map. But yeah, that'll come into play as that as well. But it is designed for 1 to 5 players, and all the scenarios are scaled from 2 to 5 heroes.
Yeah, and adventures are the heartbeat of the game because the rule set is meant to be a little more light as far as just overhead and mechanics and everything, but all of the adventures you play will have a lot of theme, they'll have a lot of narrative and a lot of special rules that kind of make them unique. And on top of that, just the actual adventures provided, there's also the story-driven tale adventures, which are much more specific and much more tied together into a longer narrative. So there's a lot of unique gameplay opportunities with the adventures in the game.
Adventures can go anywhere from settlements. You can have an adventure in a town with civilians running around. You can go into a dungeon where it's dark and there's treasure everywhere. And there's also out in the wilderness, traveling from maybe a dungeon to a settlement. You might come across a broken down wagon or something in the woods and have to fight off a big group of giant spiders.
In the wilderness, you'll face more harsh environments and weather effects and things like that, so exhaustion effects. So there's a lot of unique mechanics to be tied to the different environments you play in.
Yeah, it's a very open system. We are very excited to bring the core rules to everybody, but also providing more things in the future. We have all kinds of ideas of what else we can do in this game, in this world. There's a low barrier of entry to the game.
Yeah.
So basically all you need to play is the rule book, and you can use any models you want, any models in your collection. However, all the models in our Fantasy Series 1 and Fantasy Series 2 are designed specifically for this game. So if you want to make, like me, if you want to make a human cleric to play in Lasting Tales, there's a miniature just for you in that box. And in the book, there'll be rules on how to make your own characters from the 10 classes and the 5 races available in the core rule set. But there's also pre-made characters, so you can get in right away and start playing if you want. But it is a miniatures game where you can play with anything, any kind of terrain you want. We are working with Black Site Studios to produce official Lasting Tales terrain, and you'll see on this board here, and also we'll have links available for you to check out. But those will be available to purchase during the Kickstarter. You can get them right away if you want, but they're designed specifically for the game, which is really cool. And if you're familiar with MDF terrain laser cut, you pretty much punch it out, glue it together, and you're good to go. It's pre-painted and ready to go.
We got into gaming by playing tabletop skirmish games like Warhammer from Games Workshop. And we've always wanted to have more of an adventure style game because we grew up playing Hero Quest and those adventure board games. So we wanted to have that experience with the visual appeal of having a big tabletop with your miniatures and your scenery, and just having a more grand adventure as opposed to just having a battle with player versus player. So that was kind of what spawned our desire to have a game like this.
Yeah, we basically wanted a way for people to tell their stories on the tabletop without having to worry about a game master preparing things for you and guiding you through that story. So it's also a very flexible system, so you can play like a role-playing game. I mean, honestly, it feels like when we're playing our D&D campaigns where you have those battles, this feels like a D&D encounter. And then you also got to play through going to town and do all kinds of events in a campaign.
Yeah, and we will provide adventures to play, that are like scenarios, and also we'll have tales. Those are linked story-driven campaigns, so players can play through a tale provided by us. We'll give you a story to play through and kind of show you how to build adventures linked together into a campaign. But at the same time, the book will provide you and players their own ways to make their own tales, their own campaigns. So you can either play the published stories that we'll put out, or you can just make your own, because the rules are loose enough to do either, and it's very much open to fan content, sharing your adventures with other players. We want that kind of community to really grow from this rule set.
Thank you for checking out the Kickstarter page. We hope you like what you see. Maybe consider backing it. If not, feel free to share it with your friends who might enjoy it. Thanks for checking it out.